everyone, I'm Mary Delgado with the Blockchain Herd, and I want to thank you so much for subscribing to my channel and ask you to hit that like button and tell your friends to subscribe as well. So today I have the co-founder of WAX, which means Worldwide Asset Exchange. So many of you know that he's an OG in the crypto world. And if I'm not mistaken, he has his own blockchain hero card. So I guess when you have one of those,
Yes.
it means that you really have come up in the crypto world. So I could tell you all about him, but I think that he's going to do a better job of it than I do. And his name is William Quigley. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about you, like how you got into the crypto world, and tell us all about you.
Okay, so briefly, my partners and I had been working in an area that's kind of like crypto in the sense we were allowing people to buy and sell little virtual assets that have value. But those virtual assets were video gaming virtual assets, not blockchain-based assets. So in fact, my partner started the idea, he invented the concept of trading video game virtual assets for money. That was back in the 90s. Now, then he sold that company. I was on the board. He sold that company and he got into some Bitcoin very, very early, right? I did not. I was a bit of a skeptic. And the reason for that is, you know, I was a venture capitalist and all venture capitalists have what I call scar tissue. And scar tissue is when you did an investment and it didn't do so well. Well, back in the 90s, there was a lot of internet magic money, things like beans and flues. And unless you're over 40, you would never have heard of these. But these were virtual currencies that would allow you to buy things back in the 90s.
So back in the 90s, there were virtual currencies then?
Yes, yes,
Oh, wow.
yes, there were virtual currencies. Now, of course, these virtual currencies were not on a blockchain, right? But everybody kind of knew, well, the one problem with these virtual currencies is what happens if the company that issued them issues more. And then you would have a debasement of the currency value. So no one had thought yet about a blockchain as a way to keep everybody honest, right? But these things served one incredible purpose. And that purpose was you could do microtransactions. And for most people, if you're not in the payment space, you may not think about this, but basically anything less than a couple of dollars, you can't do. It's too expensive with traditional payments. But with these little beans and flues, you could do a penny transaction. So I had kind of dabbled in that and didn't do so well in it. So I was a little skeptical when I heard my partner say there's a new type of internet magic money. And it took me about 1.5 years. And finally, one day I said, okay, pitch me. There were 3 of us. The guy who was really into it, Jonathan, said, just let me pitch you one more time. And he pitched us. We gave him an hour. He actually spent 3 hours. And then I got it. I was like, oh, you're right. I haven't really been thinking about the blockchain part of it. And so from that time on, that day, all we did was crypto. Starting companies, investing in companies, investing in, you know, we did the first ICO. We're the second biggest investors in the Ethereum crowd sale. But we did everything you can imagine, from mining to creating wallets to creating payment processors for crypto. We started the first crypto venture capital fund. I mean, we did everything.
And you also did, I guess, what we now call the stablecoin or tether. You were first in that space?
Yeah, so, right. So one of the ideas that we came up with was because we were using crypto in a really unique way. I say that half in jest, but it's true. We were actually using it to try to pay for things. No one uses crypto to pay for things. But we learned all the problems with that, one of which was, well, once we started a crypto payment processor, we learned that, oh, the merchants are a little nervous about taking crypto because it could drop in value. And so we noodled it over for a while, and we thought, you know, we helped build this blockchain called, drawing a blank, but it was the first blockchain to do an intelligent layer on the blockchain. It's where a lot of the Ethereum guys came from. And I always draw a blank on it. It begins with an M. And we did that one. It failed. It failed mainly because we had built it on top of the Bitcoin blockchain. And the Bitcoin core developers said, why on earth would we want an intelligent layer on our blockchain? We like blockchains that are dumb and don't really do much. I'm being a little hyperbolic, but that's how I kind of felt. So, but it was a mistake to have built it on the Bitcoin blockchain. So instead, a bunch of cats who were working on that left and did the same thing, a smart contract, but they did it on a brand new blockchain that's called Ethereum. And so we were big fans of Ethereum. We didn't think it was the solution to everything, but we liked the idea of smart contracts, and Ethereum was really the first blockchain that brought smart contracts to the masses. We also, prior to Ethereum, when we had helped build this one blockchain, we couldn't quite figure out what to do with it. And we decided, well, one idea would be to tokenize a US dollar, because that's a pretty cool thing. And we thought, if you tokenize a US dollar, the benefit of that is you're going to be able to allow people to get all the attractive elements of a crypto, but without the volatility of a crypto. And we were trading cryptos back and forth, and it's a longer story, but suffice to say, if you were trading on what was at the time called a alt exchange, we don't really use the word anymore, but an alt exchange was a cryptocurrency exchange that didn't accept fiat money. And that was virtually all of them, right? Virtually no exchanges could get banking. And what became Tether was a very, very good use case for alt exchanges. And so we really like the concept. Now, having said that, and I say this to entrepreneurs all the time about ideas that in retrospect are obvious, it was not obvious to most people. It took 1 year to explain to the crypto industry what a stablecoin was. And I know there's all these smart 19-year-olds who are listening and going, wow, those people are really stupid. Maybe they were, I don't know. But novel things that are obvious after are not obvious at the time. And everybody had the same complaint. We're talking about some of the most celebrated people in crypto, by the way. Now, we didn't use the term stablecoin. Somebody else gave it that. We just said it's a tokenized US dollar. And which everybody goes, duh. All right, but let me tell you what they said to me. What's the advantage of a tokenized US dollar? And I'm like, well, because it's digitized and it's on a blockchain, you can move it quickly. Hey, William, newsflash, the dollar's been digitized for a long time. You ever heard of PayPal? I can already send you electronic dollars.
That's true.
So what's the value of this? And I said, you don't know anything about payments, do you, man? I mean, you know zero. Because if you knew anything about payments, you would know of a thing that's a real problem with payments. And I'll spell it for you. It's, chargebacks.
Chargeback.
You ever heard of those? That's when somebody gives you a PayPal payment, but it's actually from a PayPal account that they stole. So you think they paid you, but in fact, they paid you with someone else's money, and PayPal's going to take that back. Chargebacks are the bane of all payment processors. And we were doing a lot of payment processing. Now, you want to double the risk of a chargeback, take a payment from someone overseas, because now you have both the risk of a chargeback, But also, you can't actually go after those people because they're in a different country. Oh, and by the way, you have a huge cost, which is the cost of converting their currency into the currency you're willing to accept. Currency conversion costs are 1 trillion US dollars per year.
Wow.
1
Wow.
trillion.
That's crazy.
That's a big number, 1 trillion.
Yes.
And so currency conversion costs plus chargebacks plus all kinds of other things. By the way, I would also say to them, you think that a digitized dollar in PayPal moves at the speed of light. Au contraire, there's actually no way to send a payment cross-border to another person as of whatever, September 2020, as of now, in the world instantly, except for crypto. There's no other way to do it. You have a fantasy that when you send someone a PayPal transaction using the ACH network or a wire using the SWIFT network to a person overseas, you fantasize that that was instant. It's not. And in fact, the banks and PayPal will pretend it's instant. They'll show you that it's gone. It takes a day to 2 days. So it turns out the only way to send money, whether tokenized dollars or crypto money, the only way to send it near instantly is using the blockchain. There's no other way to do it. So that was a 1-year battle. And then eventually, you know, at the end of the day, if you give people something they really want, you have all these gatekeepers, the exchanges or whoever who do, well, I don't know if that's valuable. And my point would be, you know what, you don't have to know if it's valuable. Give your customers a taste of this, see if they like it. And it didn't take off instantly, but the last time I looked, Tether is the most traded cryptocurrency on planet Earth. It trades an annualized volume of $12 trillion. Bitcoin's about $10 trillion. Last time I analyzed the numbers. And yet, most people thought it was a silly, useless thing. Obviously now stable coins have become the bedrock of DeFi, right? Which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And it was during the time that, you know, we were waiting around for Ethereum to launch. It took a long time. And waiting around for people to catch on to Tether that we decided to think about blockchain and video games again, which is why we did WAX. And we'll talk more about WAX if, you know, or how we got there if you'd like.
One thing that I was thinking about is like the exchange. Like, did you initially want to own an exchange back then? Because I'm thinking about, yes, you know, I'm wondering, it's right now it's CZ, right? Which I think CZ means cubic zirconia, which I'm just completely kidding. I'm wondering if you were thinking back then, would it really be named then WQ for, you know, William Quigley?
That is funny. Yeah, I did want to do an exchange. So something else that, you know, a lot of people in the space today can't appreciate that was just a fact. The US government was at war with people in crypto, at frickin' war. So was the majority of the world. You could not get a bank account. They thought you were next to an international terrorist. They considered a cryptocurrency person or business to be like maybe right below, barely. It was terrible.
I'm wondering, is it because they were, you know, they were realizing that you were going to cut the banks out of some of these monies that they could get?
I don't know if there was any one reason. I think the after a year or two after Bitcoin started to get some traction, so we're talking maybe 2011, 2012, you had some well-publicized uses of Bitcoin in criminal activities. And But very quickly, I realized that the government was going to go after it, because I've got a theory, and the theory is this: when the government refers to the activity you're doing and then includes in the same sentence three other things, you know they're going after you. Mm-hmm. So when they say your thing, Bitcoin, and then they add money laundering, tax evasion, and drug dealing, whenever you see them name your business or activity, and then they add those three words somewhere in a sentence, that's called a tell that they don't like what you're doing. So every time I saw a government person describe Bitcoin in the same paragraph, if not the same sentence, it was money laundering, tax evasion, drug dealing. So I'm like, oh, these guys don't like this. Now, it could be because they didn't understand it. It could be because a lot of financial institutions said this might not be good for us. I actually don't know. I just know that they used Silk Road. That was a marketplace of vices, drugs and whatnot, which used Bitcoin as a payment method. They used that as basically an excuse to get rid of it. So I wanted to do an exchange. I wanted to do an exchange that accepted fiat money, because that's a lot more convenient. You're like, hey, come here and buy and trade crypto. Great, but I don't have crypto. I have US dollars. I wanted to solve that problem. And it was very, very, very hard to get a bank. So as a result, we did not start an exchange. And now it is a near trivial exercise, but at the time it was very hard.
So not going into the exchange world, when did you then identify that NFT was like, the big next thing in the blockchain? When did you identify that?
Well, I didn't call it an NFT. I don't know who gave it that name. Someone did in 2017, I think. But we had thought about it for about probably a day after my partners and I decided we were going to do all things crypto. We're like, these things are just like video game virtual items, with one difference. They are video game virtual items. Since they're not on the blockchain, you can't tell how many have been made, right? So, and typically video game virtual items are centrally controlled by one group, usually the game maker. And they often don't like it when you trade their virtual items. So we're like, it's very similar in the sense they're a store of value and people like to trade them, but there's nobody in the middle that's preventing you from doing it. So I like that. But you couldn't really do that. You couldn't do anything with video game virtual items on the Bitcoin blockchain. It's just not designed for it. You need a smart contract. And in order for that to happen, well, that had to be invented. And that took a couple of iterations. And then you had Ethereum blockchain. And then we're like, maybe. But we had a big worry about Ethereum, which was the transaction costs and the delays, right? So I've been talking about this since basically day one, that guys, Ethereum is really slow and really expensive. And so I think what happened was CryptoKitties came along and people were like, this is so cool. It's like a little, virtual item. And it's fine, but, it's not practical because it's so expensive to trade it. And so what we decided when we started seeing what Dan Larimer was doing, we had invested in all of Dan Larimer's prior chains, he's the guy who did EOSio, but he had done a lot of chains before, I think 3. And we thought he was a pretty smart guy. And so he said, hey, I'm going to try to develop a consensus mechanism that is very cheap and fast. And we said, all right, we'll wait. And so we launched WAX knowing that he was going to do something, right? Dan was going to do something, and that probably by the time we were ready to go, we would have it ready. And it was almost like exactly, right? So I think he launched his release, EOS, the alpha, whatever, in June 2018,
18.
and then July 2018, we started to migrate what we were doing onto an EOSio variant chain, which is what WAX is. And NFTs were still thought of as part of a video game. And so I thought that was sort of the wrong way to think about them. They are an entertainment medium, and they don't have to be trapped in a video game. So that's sort of the thinking WAX brought to the table. And I think it's proved to be true. You know, every NFT sale done on WAX is sold out.
Wow.
People love trading them. And,
Yeah.
you know, we are developing what I would call the intelligent NFT, right? So NFTs, I believe, are going to be an entirely separate entertainment platform. It's just going to be a new medium. And if you believe that, and you look at the next closest like proxy to an NFT, that would be video game virtual items. $125 billion a year is bought. That's $125 billion of revenue per year comes from video game virtual items, and growing very fast, double digits. So I think NFTs can be as big as that, because NFTs offer everything that video game virtual items offer, plus a lot of other cool stuff. So that's a pretty big market.
Yeah, NFTs are huge. Like I know that you know the blockchain heroes, they've just been amazing, and when they launched their NFTs, and then even on the secondary market, just went crazy. I appreciate the fact that you were talking about Ethereum and their gas fees, that WAX does not have any gas fees at all. There's no fees associated. So I appreciate that a lot, because you have the end user in mind. If they buy a card for $5 and then they spend $10, you know, to trade it or pay the gas fees, then what's the point?
That's exactly right. And I look at those gas fees constantly. And by the way, I like Ethereum. I like Ethereum for certain things. What it doesn't do well is enable very fast trading of low dollar value items. And that's because the Ethereum blockchain is a proof of work blockchain. And the Ethereum blockchain uses the Uber model of surge pricing. When there's a lot of demand, it just raises the price. And if you want your transaction to go through, or you want to catch that Uber during a busy time, you pay more. And that's fine. But it drives, you know, makes things haywire, because, you know, you've got a 50 cent or a $1 value in NFT that you're used to trading, and you're paying maybe 10 cents. And now it goes up to $10. Well, you don't want to trade something for $1 worth $1 or 50 cents that costs $10. You know, the average pack that gets sold, the NFT packs on WAX are $5. So you get a $5 pack, but it costs you $10 to trade it. It just, and of course, I've been saying this for like many years. I've been like, guys, you don't want to build an NFT business on Ethereum. And some people have said, well, one day Ethereum will be proof of stake. I think that is true, but you've got to build your business now. I don't think it helps you when I say, well, one day I'll make your business affordable, but build on this now. Well, that doesn't make sense. So one day Ethereum will be proof of stake, and then we can check it out. But I've been perplexed why people still trade or try to do NFTs on Ethereum.
Yeah.
You know, it's too expensive.
Way too much. So I just talked a second ago of the blockchain heroes. Joel and Travis are phenomenal people. I just did an interview with them. Their marketing is superb. And I just saw that you made them part of the advisory council, which your advisory council is amazing. I want to say congratulations to them as being part of it. Now, you have people like Google, like just the names that you have on there are unbelievable. How do you think that you can market that a little bit better so people are aware just the minds that are a part of WAX?
Yeah, and I think it's a good point. Um, we focus a lot of times just on enhancing the capabilities and making the thing work. And our mindset, my partners and me, is always if there's a tool out there that does something well, smart people will find that tool, right? But like Tether, it took a year for smart people to find it. And a lot of people think that by definition, an NFT is on Ethereum. So if you're a digitally traded pieces of art and you're not on Ethereum, then you're not an NFT. Now, I don't know why people think that, but a lot of people do. So one thing Wax has, I would say, as a marketing challenge is it's on a consensus mechanism that is not Ethereum. It's EOSio. And so we are trying to think through how we get people, let's say on the Ethereum side, who like NFTs to see the value of doing the NFT heavy lifting, which is creating them and selling them on a blockchain optimized for that. And maybe taking the profits you make and yes, keeping that in the Ethereum ecosystem, which is a great place for it to be. But for the actual, like the manufacturing or the operational part of NFTs, they should not be done on Ethereum. So as part of the new WAX tokenomics, we're actually going to be pushing that point. And, we're designing a system that is a very interesting hybrid system. The NFT trading, the creation is done on our blockchain, and then the value being created from that is accessible through the Ethereum blockchain. So that's one way we're trying to get people who go to Ethereum for NFT buying and selling to understand what they can do on WAX. Now, to be fair, when I talk to brands who are more sophisticated, who have, armies of IT people, honestly, it's like a very short it's a very short discussion. I say, by the way, we're not Ethereum. Yeah, that's why we're talking to you. Because Ethereum doesn't work for NFTs. So, what I ultimately think is the brands will be notifying their people that they've got these cool NFTs, and the brands will help put a spotlight on the fact that WAX is a great place to do it.
Going to the advisory council and some of them out there, some of the community has seen several of the advisory council members doing deals or having announcement with other blockchains. Like, for example, Atari just announced that it was partnering with Ultra to add some games, which has some of the WAX community a little bit worried. What can you say about those partnerships, and is there any worry for them as it relates to that?
Yeah, here's what I would say. It reminds me of my days when I was at Disney. I was the finance head of the licensing business. Okay, so our licensing deals were rarely exclusive. Global brands are rarely going to do exclusive deals, right? Where they're like, the Walt Disney Company says, you company have the exclusive right in perpetuity for the global Mickey Mouse watch business, right? Disney does those, but they're very rare and they're only with giant global companies. So Atari is a licensing business. So it is trying to maximize for its shareholders its revenue. So if another blockchain wants to license Atari IP, it's free to do that. And I'm not a big believer in exclusivity because I've always felt like if you do a good job at it, you're going to get plenty of the business, right? And exclusive deals are great. And they're usually done when both parties realize they would never use another thing anyway. So you might as well make it exclusive. So that was is my answer there. I mean, I don't know if there are exclusive deals on the blockchain. I would say it's the rare exception, you know,
Right.
rare exception for that to happen. So I wouldn't be that worried about it.
Well, good. Calm their nerves down. That's good. So now I reached out to the community, which I know that you're very involved with, and I wanted to see if they had any questions for you. So they obviously responded back, and I know that you may have some NDAs and some of these that you may not be able to answer, and that's okay. So if
Yeah,
it's okay with you, I'm going to go on to some questions from the community.
perfect. Perfect. Yep.
Okay, so here's the first one. How or when will WAX work on cross-marketing promotions with some of the crypto projects WAX is partnered with? For example, the upcoming Street Fighter release.
Right. So, by the way, we do lots of marketing for the projects we partnered with, and uh, partnered is a word that's not terribly descriptive, right? So I would ask your audience, whenever you see that word, you know, is it a licensing deal? Is it a did they invest in the company? Is it a deal where one company is using this company exclusively for something? I mean, uh, you know, the types of relationships two companies can have with each other is vast, right? So a lot of marketing people use the word partnering, but I always like personally to dig down and say, what is it really? Is it a licensing deal? Is it a joint venture? Is it an acquisition? No, what is it? So I believe the Street Fighter, that's a licensing deal.
Yeah.
And it's not exclusive. Okay. But obviously, the owner of Street Fighter is not going to give their brand out to any Tom, Dick, and Harry, right?
Right.
They want to know that it's worth their time and that they can trust you. So I think, based on our backgrounds, we convey a lot of credibility and trust with people. So you do have to have that. But for Street Fighter, we're when we launch that, we want that the community to get excited about how that NFT works. And so we're going to do a lot of marketing for that particular NFT. We have a lot of NFT projects coming, right? So we can't we can't market them all at once. It's in serial. I think the next NFT project that's going out is another the Tops trading card company. I believe in a few days they're going to be releasing another NFT series. So we'll be pushing that, obviously. And then we've got other brands, we have other consumer product companies, and those are all coming. And I'm always open to ideas. You know, what you would love to do, what we would love to do is reach everybody who is interested in NFTs on any blockchain and say, you should come and check this out, because with the Wax Cloud wallet, it's really easy to use. You can buy these things with your credit card. You can trade them. And if you don't want to hold the private keys to the blockchain, the Wax Cloud wallet is a great place to store them. I mean, you know, we're students of convenience at Wax. So I know the winning thing usually is the most convenient thing. And it's pretty darn easy to get onto Wax. You know, you've got social login, so you can use your Google login. You literally don't have to maintain that private key, which sometimes gets people nervous. And then, of course, you've got lots of different marketplaces on the Wax blockchain where you can trade this thing for other types of tokens. So I think we make it pretty convenient.
So I can tell you, I can attest to that because the Wax Cloud wallet, the way you have made it was completely easy. And for a person like me who's like a newbie and doesn't understand all this, and I'm trying to learn it, it was very easy for me. So you have made it easy for the end user.
Can I ask, did you try to use MetaMask on Ethereum?
I have not.
I'd like you to try, because
Okay,
it's
I'm going to
tough.
try it.
Yeah, and of course that,
And I'm sure that the difference is going to be stark.
yeah, that was when I would go around a couple of years ago and explain people why this stuff wasn't going to work on Ethereum. Once I explained this massive cost, remember for most, well, for video game companies, when they make a virtual item, it costs them zero or very, very, very close to zero because they're just adding it's a file in a database, right? There's no payment for it. Well, if you want to make a virtual item on Ethereum right now, it costs you $10 because that's what you got to do to create it. You're paying your gas fees, and then you got to pay to transfer it. And so, our view was that's a reason in itself not to use Ethereum. But then how would a consumer interact with it? Well, they've got to use Metamask, which is like torture. So WAX is incredibly easy to use. And I think that is a reason there's, hundreds of thousands of WAX wallets. People, once they do it, they're like, oh, this is super easy. So what I'm hoping is with our new WAX Tokenomics, which has a element that's done on Ethereum, but not the trading and the creation of the NFT, people will go, oh, from the Ethereum side, what's this WAX stuff? They'll learn about it, and then hopefully they'll understand, wow, that makes a lot of sense. The stuff Ethereum does well, do there. The stuff Ethereum does terribly, do it on a blockchain optimized for that. I mean, that's very basic. And that's frankly the way all technology is done. You don't use just one piece of technology. That's the reason I say the death of blockchain maximalists is coming soon. Blockchain maximalists are these people who say one blockchain to rule them all. And that's just silly. You don't use one piece of technology for everything, right? You use the best tech for the purpose that you're trying to do. So you're doing NFTs, WAX is exceptional. You want to use DeFi? I think Ethereum's the best game in town.
Well, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you. So I know that you came on the show, and I just have a small little show, and there are other shows out there that are much bigger than mine. Pomp, Ivan on Tech. So, do you have any plans on going on a bigger show and just talking about
Sure.
WAX?
And I really like Pomp. I've been on before. I was going to do it, I would say, a few months ago, but one of his requirements is that you be in studio. Oh. And I totally get why. I've done radio, right? When you're in the radio sound studio and you're looking at the person, but you're right near them, it's a way different interaction. It's like you can tell you're not there in person. You know what I mean? And so I get that. And I was actually going to go, and then COVID broke out, and I'm like, well, it's going to be hard to kind of go, but I would like to go as soon as he has an open slot. Yes. And you're right. There are others as well. What I'd like to do is be able to explain this inter-blockchain philosophy we have. Use the blockchain for the purpose where it's best. Use a different blockchain for where it's best. That should not be a controversial point. But again, this whole maximalist thing, it's really bizarre when the Bitcoin maximalists speak. I mean, are you kidding me?
I know.
You can't do anything with Bitcoin except use it as a paperweight. It's a store of value. And if somebody says, no, you can do payments on Bitcoin with Lightning, that is a joke.
I have several friends who are about Bitcoin. That's all. Nothing else. I'm not going to go outside of that world. Bitcoin and nothing else.
And here's my view of that. there are people we all know who will eat only spaghetti.
Yep.
That's all they'll eat. Or, the only cereal they've ever had is cornflakes. Okay, right? Most of us kind of like to pick and choose the thing that we feel like does it best. I always say to my Bitcoin friends, how are those smart contracts working?
Yep.
Of course, the Bitcoin people will tell you, you can do smart contracts on Bitcoin, to which I say yes. And do you know you can build a 747 out of toothpicks? I mean, it's possible. It's not advisable.
That's hilarious.
It's a funny thing.
Yeah. So going back, do you have any plans then to do any AMAs, like maybe twice a month or once a week or something like that?
Well, so it's yes, and the community does. I do hear them. The community complains that, William, you don't talk enough about wax, and I want you out there more. And I got two things. One, I would love to talk more about it, but you can't build stuff every single day. If I could build stuff every single day, I would literally talk every single day about it. It takes months to build this stuff, right? And it's been a struggle for me to figure out, like, most large companies, as you know, they don't literally have press releases about just stuff they've already done every single day. They have announcements that are scheduled around events they want their audience or their customer base to hear. And so we do tons of promotion on our social media about the things going on on the WAX blockchain. We do that constantly, right? But could I do an AMA every day? I could, but I think people would get kind of bored of hearing me. Now, could I do one twice a month?
I like hearing you talk. I mean, you did say you were on radio, so I think you're doing great.
Yeah. Now, yeah, I could do that. And to be fair, I've said to my marketing people, look, as part of this tokenomics thing, I think we are entering what I call fourth generation utility tokens, brand new economic models. And my partners and I are almost always ahead of other people in terms of what we see that can be done. And then it takes a while to do it. But I would like the WAX community to understand where we see the market going, particularly around intelligent NFTs and around just the evolution of utility tokens, because we've had a first, second, third generation. WAX is about to jump to be a fourth generation utility token. It's actually jumping from first to fourth. I don't know of any other blockchain that is a fourth generation utility token. I think we'll be the first, but that's a big deal. And it takes a while for this stuff to sink in. I have learned when it comes to blockchain that it is very kind of conceptual. And in fact, some things about blockchain are counterintuitive. The fact that you make things more secure by everybody being able to see every single transaction and being able to look at every line of code that powers it. The conventional thinking in the world, even right now, is that makes it less secure. Transparency makes it less secure. If that was not the case, we would be able to see every wire going through the JP Morgan wire transfer office. We'd be able to inspect all their wire transfer code, but we don't, because the majority of the world believes that transparency makes things less secure. Blockchain thinking turned that idea on its head, which is really amazing. We literally said, if you do the opposite of what you think, you'll be more secure. Counterintuitive thinking takes a long time to sink in because we have all these biases, right? So I know this, and so I believe, just like counterintuitive thinking today is NFTs off of Ethereum are better, because most people think NFTs on Ethereum are better. So it probably will take me talking a lot about this, and I'm happy to go do it because it's a big conceptual leap.
Yeah,
And I'll
maybe even
start doing it.
something like
Next
once
week,
a month.
I'll be publishing a piece on what WAX is doing, and that will, at a conceptual level, explain why we're doing this inter-blockchain design, one part Ethereum, one part WAX. And then we will publish the basic architecture of the new WAX tokenomics model. We've put a lot of time into it. In fact, we were going to publish it this week, and we gave it to some people, and they were not as clear. I thought that it should be perfectly clear when people read it, go, I get it. And it wasn't. So I said, let's rewrite it. So now that's going to go out next week.
So with all of these developments, I know that you are hiring a lot of developers.
Yes, developers who have Solidity experience, which is the programming language you use for smart contracts on Ethereum, and then C++, which is the EOSio language, and then designers, graphic artists. Now, when you ask for people to have certain set of skills, you want them to be top notch, and you want them to have direct experience in blockchain, it's a tall order. And so it's not as easy to hire rapidly to get those types of rare skills. But we're out like in Telegram, I'll tell you what I don't do. I gave up on it. Trying to hire developers or even other people on LinkedIn. I know that's the go-to. I hate LinkedIn. I hate it. Half of the 2/3 of the messages I get on LinkedIn are fraudsters. It's just scammers. And then every recruiter is on LinkedIn hitting up everybody constantly. Your inbox is filled with whatever. And so I feel like it's a very ineffective way to recruit these days. So I think Telegram is a better way, and going into your community. So that's what we're doing. So if people are listening to this podcast and they have the skill sets that I just laid out, you can go to wax.io website. You can see and apply. We'd love to talk to you.
Here's another question. It says, how will WAX support developers on developing intelligent NFTs? You talked in the past interviews about intelligent NFTs.
Yeah, well, one, we already are. One, we gave WAX Labs, which is development funds, money to a group called Crypto Lions, who created the NFT standard called Simple Assets. Okay. And then another group came along called Pink Networks, and they said, hey, we could make the NFT standard better, improve it, and they call that atomic assets. And so we gave them development funds to do it. The best way to promote the community when it comes to NFTs is to ensure that there is a standard, an NFT standard that's flexible and rich with features. And so what you don't want to do is you don't want every NFT to be a unique piece of technology, because then they're not interoperable. And the key to mass acceptance, maximum adoption is to have a standard that everybody builds to. And so Atomic Assets is one of those right now. When D-Goods comes out with their stuff, maybe we'll incorporate some of the D-Good standards. So that's how we're doing it.
Yeah, so I guess that falls in line with this next question, which you probably touched on it already, which is that the creation of Atomic Asset Standard and Atomic Hub Marketplace has been an amazing development for WAX. How does WAX plan to keep pushing that experience for users when not all development is coming from WAX? You touched a little on that.
Yeah. And I guess what I would say is this too, is I encourage the Pink Networks guys to build on what they've already done with the NFT, the WAX NFT standard, and to keep pushing the envelope. Don't bother trying to port that over to crappy chains that aren't optimized for NFTs, right? I've actually talked to them about that. Like, let's keep advancing this standard. I like those guys because they're, they were customers of our old company, Opskins. They participated in the WAX ICO. So these guys are video game virtual item traders in their past. They're very brief past, they're young guys, but, and they kind of flocked to WAX because they were like, oh, for NFTs, this is a really good design. So we'd like to continue to support what they're doing. And as other people have ideas for pushing the envelope of the NFT standard, they need to go to the WAX Labs site and put in a proposal. Say, I've got an idea to upgrade the NFT standard to do X. Okay, give us that proposal, and WAX Labs can help fund that.
Could we see off-WAX chain NFT transfers handled on WAX, like lockup token by sending to an account, then any trades happen on WAX, then withdraw back to native chain?
Yeah, so yes, so the will WAX, will you be able to trade non-WAX created NFTs on WAX, right? Mm-hmm. So using some sort of like Ethereum to WAX bridge, for instance. So you have an Ethereum NFT, an ERC-721, and it's not that, it's like a $2 NFT, and the fees are very high to trade it on Ethereum. So could you bring it over to WAX and trade it and pay nothing, right? And yeah, so that's part of the new WAX tokenomic model, is to enable NFTs on first Ethereum, and then others, if there are a lot of them, to be traded on WAX. Because that's how it should be, right? The place where it's easiest and most affordable to do the trading is where you should do it.
May we possibly see a WAX stablecoin like the original white paper sometime?
Well, I'd say the stablecoin, we've obviously we invented the concept, so we like stablecoins. I would say I would like to have a stablecoin on WAX. So that's the answer I would give. I'd like to have it. We haven't announced anything, but it would be good to have a stablecoin. But we haven't yet said, oh, we're going to have it and we're going to have it on this day.
So your slogan is that WAX is the king of NFTs. So yep. Over the next 12 months, you've got so much going on. How can you get this word out as WAX, the king of NFTs?
Yeah, I guess that will come. I'm hoping some of that comes from the tokenomics, right? So exposing people who are Ethereum fans, the Ethereum community, to the use case, the NFT trading use case, being better done on a proof of stake chain. And I know Ethereum will say, well, we're going to have a proof of stake. Okay, but when, right? Better done on a chain like WAX, optimized for it, than on Ethereum. The community, I think the WAX community totally gets it. We are constantly out there talking to people about what we do on WAX. I sometimes believe that, as I mentioned at the top of this podcast, we're in a little bit of an EOS ghetto, right? Where EOS is kind of ignored to a bit, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're on Ethereum, it's a lot easier because a lot more people are on Ethereum. And but I think the main way it's going to come is through brand partnerships, because the brands just want it convenient and credible, easy. When the brands do stuff on Ethereum, they figure it out really fast that it's a terrible experience. So I think a lot of it might come from the brands putting a spotlight on this. But I can tell you this, where we are going with NFTs, what you can do with NFTs, I wish we could go faster. That is something that I do struggle with. I wish we had more developers. We are trying to hire more. The things that we're going to do on WAX are going to be so exciting to different industries that currently have a business. They're even pretty big businesses, but there are things they can't do and their customers would love to do. We're gonna have abilities for people to do stuff on NFT that the customers on those other businesses can only dream of.
What spaces do you see that are going to be the big ones? Like, what type of customers do you think is going to be like the big explosion?
Well, I will say this, every time I talk about stuff, a new blockchain pops up with what I've said. So I would just say consumer products in general, right? That's the category we're really focused on. And there's a lot of things done in consumer products. There's things that Disney used to do and still does. There's things that Amazon does. There's things that well-known companies do that if I spent 15 minutes with their CEO and I said, what do you think would happen to your product if I did the following two things with it? I think those guys would say, thank you very much, William. You just gave me $1 billion idea. And of course, I'm going to take it and I'm not going to give it to WAX. I want WAX to have it. So my philosophy right now is when we're launching new capabilities, that's when we discuss what it is that we're doing. And the only exception I'll make for that is if it's a conceptual thing that you got to figure out first. It's like, hey, we're going to try this inter-blockchain thing. Okay, you got to think about that a little. And by the way, one of the things I'm going to do next week is I'm going to do a video where I'm just going to explain the new WAX tokenomics, which will accompany the written material we're publishing that sort of explains it. And then I'll do an AMA, right? Where I'll probably do it the way we're doing this now, in the sense that I'll get a bunch of questions that people ask me. Mm-hmm. I'll just put up the question behind me on the screen and I'll just go through them. I've tried to do AMAs where I read their question and I type the answer. That's like watching paint dry because it takes me 2 minutes to type the answer.
Who wants to watch paint dry?
I hope I got the answers to the questions you had.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely you did. And I know that you're a really busy guy. So I'm just going to ask you a couple more because I know you do have to go. And let me just ask you this really quick. So if you had to ask yourself a question, what would that be?
William, when are you going to get more developers to build out things faster on WAX blockchain? That's the question I would ask myself.
That would be your question.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you being on the show, my little show, and for answering the questions that you could. Is there anything that you want to break on the blockchain herd so I can say you heard it here first?
Well, I've said a lot of stuff about what we're going to release next week, which is kind of you heard it here first. And I really am glad I did this because you basically surveyed the community. You got a bunch of questions. You probably filtered out the ones you thought were most broad in terms of what people want to know. So I appreciate you doing that. And it sounded like from your perspective, if I was to do some sort of public conversation every 2 weeks with the community, you're like, hey, that would be great. I haven't felt like that would be, there'd be enough people who wanted to know answers to things that it would be worth it. But I'll consider doing that.
Absolutely. A couple of weeks or whenever you can. I think that it would answer a lot of these questions that I see in the WAX community, a lot of these chat rooms. So I have my WAX shirt on too. So I really am supporting WAX. And I appreciate you guys sending this to me too in pink.
I really like that. I only have the black one. That one's nice.
I like this one. So I really want to get the word out there. I'm trying to get more people on crypto and blockchain and understanding what Wax is all about and how beneficial it is. And yes, I agree with you. Like there's different methods for different projects that you're going on, and Wax is definitely the king of NFTs for sure. And I see a lot of success in your future for sure.
Well, I'd love you to read what we're publishing next week, and then you get back to me and tell me, hey, I get it, or I had these questions. That would be super helpful. Thank you for hosting this.
Yeah, thank you so much. And as always, appreciate you being on here. Wish you much success.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
As always, thank you so much for watching the Blockchain Herd. Bam and I really appreciate it. Thank you to William Quigley with Wax. And as always, you heard it here on the Blockchain Herd.